What's up, people? We are back with more of Eden. The beeping still continues. I have to pick up. Inaba had finished checking over some documents when he received an incoming call. It came right as he was about to make some coffee. He couldn't ignore it, so he switched on the transmission at his computer terminal. There we go. Yes? Major Inaba, it's me. General, sir, it's been a long time. Due to strengthening electromagnetic interference the past few years, there have been few opportunities to communicate in real time with the outside. Inaba was thankful since he usually got away without being scolded directly by his superiors, but on the rare occasions a signal managed to make it through. It was depressing indeed. We'll only be able to maintain the line for another 20 minutes or so I'd like to get to the point. Of course. Regarding Shion's change in condition, there is none. There is also no particular lag in her completing her work, as expected of her. I see. She's been working for 100 years too. She really is impressive. Wow, she's worked her entire life on this? Dang. I mean, that's even longer for a Felix, right? If it's for a human, he's worked his entire life for this, then it might be like, it could, depending on how old you are, of course, but it's generally like in the double digits only, rather than triple digits like freaking Shion. Dang. I agree. But as far as no lag in her work, the immigration office says otherwise. Immigration office, you say? Improvements based upon her data submissions to both the colony ships undergoing fine-tuning and those already in space are currently underway, but there appears to be many errors. Could the cause be to her deteriorating physical condition? It's just as written in her attending physician's reports. Her bodily functions are declining, but there hasn't been much degeneration these past few years. Of course, I can't say for certain if it isn't the source of her errors. It is a fact that several accidents have occurred the past few months. Although they were not the fault of her errors, she is the person in charge of the colony ship's development. Inaba had already been informed of the frequency of accidents, but this was a project that had been running on an unreasonable schedule from the very beginning. Accidents were unavoidable, and he hadn't thought it would be enough to change the situation. So, what would you have me do, sir? There's no need for you to do anything. There would be nothing gained from holding her accountable. Inaba felt relieved. The higher-ups weren't idiots either. There are no more scientists capable than Shion, after all. That's right. Of course ordinary humans couldn't stand a chance against her, but even amongst the Felixes, she stands as a prodigy. More than 3,000 Felixes were created before genetic modification was completely prohibited. Shion was one of them, but we have no idea why Shion alone held such unparalleled talents. Even exact clones couldn't match the original abilities. Inaba was just a mere major, but he had personally watched over her and knew a lot of classified information, including things he wished he didn't know. That's right. Even if she becomes weak and her abilities wither, she is still an extremely valuable entity. That will not change. Not just her abilities, her presence alone is becoming quite important. Indeed. Before long, the colonization project will shift to its final stage. Before this world ends, I would like you to execute her final task promptly. I am aware. For the sake of the future of mankind, she must continue to live for us. The two men exchanged a few more pleasantries before the line finally went dead. The office fell into silence. What had he been trying to do before that call? Inaba thought a moment and recalled he was going to make coffee, but instead reached for his whiskey bottle. He was no longer in the mood for coffee. He opened the bottle and stared at his empty cup. Keep living, huh? As your puppet? He took a firm grasp of his cup and slammed it onto the desk. Although he knew it was meaningless, he had to vent some of his frustration. Inaba was commanding officer at the research facility. He had to stand as a pinnacle of peace and calm when making judgments. He didn't have the luxury of getting carried away by his emotions. That was why he could only let his emotions explode when he was alone. In truth, even if he wanted to pass these feelings off onto someone else, this was all he could do. Shut down? What do you mean? Do you know of someone named Hajime Shinryuji? No, I don't. When I said that, Shion looked a bit disappointed. Well, I guess he's already a person of the past. He was a scientist like myself. He was a substantial advocate of the Earth Evacuation project and the one who created the Felixes. On top of that, he was also quite eccentric, built a mansion on a solitary island out at sea, and shut himself away, continuing his research there for the rest of his life. You mean this research facility? Yeah, you might say he had exquisite tastes. He sought refinement in his living space, unusual for a scientist. I suppose that's true. I slouched my head as a question promptly came to mind. About him being the creator of Felixes. Yes, he also created me and Alicia. Dr. Shinjuji used this facility to conduct researches on Felixes. Both Alicia and I were born and raised here. So this was your and Alicia's home. Yes, Alicia and I studied here together with the other Felixes. Eventually, the doctor became so immersed in his research that it destroyed his body, and he passed away. Alicia had been taking care of the facility ever since. What? Alicia runs this place? Oh, you didn't know? I suppose not knowing would be reasonable, since she normally goes around in that outfit. Since she's a maid, isn't it lovely? Was it? I always thought Alicia wore a maid uniform because it suited Shion's tastes. I don't mind discussing her attire in more depth sometime, but let's set it aside for now. We're really gonna go in depth talking about her maid costume? Like, oh yeah, this particular ribbon here, the design of it is exquisite. On paper, Alicia is the supervisor for this facility, although Major Inaba has since taken over security and many of its related functions. Makes sense. It was expected that the government would keep Shion's residents under their control. Even if Shion ran the place, she didn't seem to exercise any authority regarding daily functions. This place has, in essence, become my personal research facility for a while now. For a while, try 100 years. Her expression was unmoving as she spoke. I was in charge of the Earth Evacuation project, focusing specifically on the development of the colony ships, but I've never once been to the site where they are actually being built. So you just give instructions remotely? The airwaves are still good enough for me to direct construction from the fundamental designs to the implementation stages. As long as there is an environment where I'm able to receive data in real time, there's no reason why I couldn't remain here. That was probably best as well. Although she was the ship's developer, it wasn't like she'd be the one with a wrench in hand building the engines. It was decided that it would be very beneficial to house me in this facility, which is just like a hideout. Many have targeted me, and the actual construction sites were constantly under threat of terrorist attacks. I was also in favor of concealing myself. After all, I couldn't continue my work if I were killed. However, this game of hide and seek is now over. The scary ogres haven't been able to find me. Though, even scarier ogres seem to have been beside me all along. She looked at me for a moment and briefly chuckled to herself. Wow, she actually has a sense of humor. I mean, I don't know why I think of Felixes as like emotionless human beings, but I just sort of felt, at least from sort of the description that they give sometimes, from the way she speaks, Shion sort of comes across like very emotional, like she's just not literally like a robot, but partly like because of the fact that she's always programmed to be constantly busy with her work, not wanting to come out, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. That sort of gives me this robot-like impression of her, so when she makes a small tiny joke like that, I'm just actually surprised. The war is over, and the project has entered its final stage. The finishing touches are the last thing on the agenda. I'm the person in charge of the project, which took humanity into space. I like to witness with my own eyes the moment the very last individual is sent on my way. However, they wouldn't permit you to stay until the very end. It's impossible to let you remain in a world that could end at any time. Exactly. I'll leave this place, and once I do, there'll be no reason to keep this facility operational. The facility will be shut down, and you'll head to space. I suspect that you will likely be employed as my guard. You're sufficiently capable, and the Major seems to trust you. That's not really true. Above all else, you seem to have abundant experience in anti-terrorism, and personally, I have no complaints about you. Thank you for that. Taking Shion safely into space probably wouldn't be that simple. More so than the number of quality of her guards, the real challenge would be to what extent we could conceal her movements. In short, how useful would I actually be on scene if I became her attendant? Warrant Officer Haruna, I have something I'd like to ask you. Yes? The outside world. What is it like? Huh? For a moment, I couldn't grasp the meaning of her question. Since I was born, I've never left this place. Not even once. Wow, that's sad. Poor Shion. Not even once? You've been here for 100 years? Yes. It couldn't be. No. That wasn't the face of someone joking. And there was no real point lying about such a thing. I have always been locked up, and I always will be locked up. Your abilities certainly are valuable, but locking you up in the same place for 100 years sounds way out of line. So she hadn't been shutting herself in for the sake of the research, but rather because she was confined to this facility. In truth, I don't know anything of the world aside from this Western-styled house. Why would they go so far? Frankly speaking, I think it's because I'm scary. I concentrated all of my abilities into the development of the colony ships, but there was always the possibility of me using these skills for other purposes as well. For example, if you were so inclined, you could have created the weapons the likes of which the world has never seen? As expected from a soldier. She said that teasingly. But you're quite right. There certainly are those in the upper echelons of the government and military who thought of that possibility. It's like they think I'm a monster or something. From an ordinary person's perspective, Shion was a savior who had shown humanity the path to survival as it was on the brink of perishing. But if those in power grew scared of someone with such expertise, that might not be so far-fetched. But then again, their apprehensions are not too far off the mark. I thought of many ways I could destroy mankind. Wow. It would take a little time. Destroying humanity would probably be far easier than saving it. Did you ever take a step beyond just thinking about it? Even just once? won't answer that question. That means yes. So she had thought about how to hasten the end of the world. The fact she hadn't put it into practice wasn't because she was locked up, but rather she wasn't that kind of person, right? Just imagining it sent a chill down my spine. Right now, I don't even have the slightest intention of destroying it. I don't have the energy for that anymore. I may have once been a monster, but my abilities have since declined. Now that I'm approaching death, I have just one small wish. What sort of wish? I asked on reflex. Her somber eyes felt like daggers in my heart. So, this emotion was still within me, huh? No matter how fast space may be, if I'm to be locked away in a tiny corner of it, then I don't want to go there. She turned her gaze to the distance. I want to run around on the surface of this planet, even if only once. Even if this world will end, I want to wait for its final moments. I suddenly stopped and looked out of the window. The clouds were clearing, revealing a serene blue sky extending all the way to the horizon. Staring at it for a while made my eyes slightly hurt. The light was a little much for my eyes, having been exhausted from the night shift. What is the matter, Ryou? Alicia-chan! The maid girl whispered with concern. My shift ended the same as usual. After handing things over to my relief, I said goodbye to Levie and ran into Alicia on the way back to my room. Yay, that means she's okay, I hope. It's nothing in particular. Really? If you are not feeling well, would you like me to have a look at you? I should be asking you that. Are you alright? Yes, since I played hooky. Huh? I had a hard time telling of how much of what Alicia said was true, but at least her complexion looked fine. Was she seriously pretending to be sort of sick so that I would be placed in a room with Shion? Because both her and Inaba expect Ryou to do something that Inaba is apparently incapable of. We don't know exactly what it is, but maybe it's to fulfill Shion's final wish? I don't know, but this seems sort of planned from Alicia's part at least. But seriously, Ryou, aren't you acting a bit strange? Nah. Someone asked me whether I believed the world would be destroyed a little while ago. A person of faith? Sorry, I have a bad habit of telling jokes without reading the situation, Alicia had said wholeheartedly as she let out a deep sigh. That seems to be the case. Yes, I suppose that joke isn't very amusing in the modern day. So, what did you say, Ryou? What was it again? I guess I said something along the lines of, it doesn't feel very real. That is reasonable. One cannot cast aside their doubts until the very moment of destruction, even as everything visibly falls apart at the seams. She spoke in a clear tone I almost never heard from her. That goes for everyone, not just you. Do you believe in it, Alicia? To tell the truth, I was forced to believe it. Forced to believe it? I too was once a scientist, a long time ago. So you were. That makes sense. I sometimes forgot, given her usual dress and personality, but she was unmistakably a Felix. It was only natural she had participated in the Earth Evacuation project in some form. I was not what you could call high caliber though. She shrugged her shoulders and gave me a bitter smile. As a Felix, Alicia's intelligence was far above that of humans. It would only be appropriate that at one point she would have worked on the colony ships. No, Since she had been born a Felix, she was obligated to use those abilities of hers to save humanity. There were many who did not believe the world was ending when the Earth Evacuation project first started. We collected data on how certain the destruction of Earth was and explained in detail so that the bureaucrats would prepare a budget. That must have been tough. No kidding, Alicia pouted. Aww. But since I am cute and oh so oozing with kindness, the bigwigs would likely not be too tough on me. At least, that is what I was told before they unleashed the full brunt of their committees. Although I only told the truth, I was removed from the project for that reason. It was quite troublesome. Was she trying to brag, or was she bitter? As I was pondering, Alicia sighed deeply. Well, it is also true that my work was not particularly astounding, so I was put into negotiation roles more often than research. I got sort of fed up. So you dropped out? Since Shion was here, I specialized in developing engines, but Shion was capable of doing everything herself. The truth is that the other Felixes, the ordinary scientist, and I were unnecessary. Alicia smiled bitterly once more. In her 100 years of life, I was sure she must have gone through things I couldn't even begin to imagine. Wasn't that for the best? Making tea without a world in the care suits you better. I don't know whether that's like a compliment or an insult. It just sort of sounds strange. I guess it just sort of depends on how Alicia decides to take it herself. I cannot help but wonder as to whether that should make me happy or if I'm being patronized. Exactly. I only spoke the truth. As she was in deep thought, I placed a hand on her shoulder. Okay then, I'll get going. You were doing the laundry, right? Uh-oh, yes. While I'm at it, would you like me to do your laundry as well? No, I'm alright. Doing my own laundry comes natural to me. When I joined the army, I became frighteningly capable of handling my everyday necessities before even honing my combat skills. But one of my humble wishes is to wash men's clothes and get a taste of what it's like to be a newlywed wife. That's a strange thing, I guess. Get a taste with some other guy. She knitted her brows and glared at me. It was an expression that I hadn't seen much of until a few days ago. I suspected that Alicia felt we had grown a little closer ever since I returned the radio. She was pretty friendly with me from the start, so it might have just been my imagination. Honestly, you can be so dense sometimes, Ryou. Never mind. Good day to you. She seemed to be in quite a bad mood as she walked off. Alicia! Huh? Yes? Nonetheless, she stopped when I called her name. It's nothing. Sorry for calling out to you. You certainly are a strange one, Ryou. Yeah, I guess I was pretty strange. If it was bugging me, then I should have just asked her about it. Why couldn't I get the words out? I had to ask about Natsume, about my sister. My shift was over and I should have gone back to my room to rest. So why was I here? Phew. I took a drink of the black tea made by a private I had become acquainted with. It was nothing compared to Alicia's, but it wasn't undrinkable. What? Ryou made another friend other than Alicia, Shion, and Major Inaba? Oh, and Levie as well. It was coming up on a month since it was oh, come on. Sometimes I just stumble over sentences and I'm like, really? You can do better than that. It was coming up on a month since I had well, here we go again. It was coming up on a month since I had been first stationed here. Wow. Good job, finally. According to Shion, this facility would soon be shut down, but such a directive had yet to be issued. These tediously slow days were still trudging along. Oh, if it isn't Officer Haruna, or Warrant Officer Haruna, what you up to? I should ask you that. I looked hard at the face of my partner, whom I had been with on the night shift until just a little while ago. Well, I couldn't really sleep. Levie pulled out a chair within reach and sat down in an unexpectedly refined fashion. You know, lately... What? You and Miss Alicia seem quite close. Not really. Alicia gets along with everyone, doesn't she? Even though she was admired by everybody, she had never fallen for anyone. That was what Shion had said. She always looks so happy when she's talking to you. I can tell that much. Even if that's the case, what are you trying to say? You haven't noticed? Miss Alicia has been looking quite a bit anxious lately. I won't let you say you haven't. You look like you're spacing out, but I know you're always keeping watch of your surroundings, even now. I think of it as a bad habit, personally. I was one who had wandered through battlefields, unsure of whether I would live or die, and fought to outmaneuver enemies who would employ any means to kill me. I was always honing my senses so that I wouldn't overlook the slightest changes in the situation. I honestly can't tell what it is. I have my guesses, but I'm not completely certain what Miss Alicia is anxious about. But her insecurity may be something that would vanish with some brief words from you. What are you being so touchy for? It wasn't that I didn't understand what she was saying. I just didn't know why Levie was so concerned about Alicia. Rather, it looked like she was irritated about something else and was venting at me. The sight of thick-headed men irritates me. I don't care for that. They're watching us. The other people in the room were starting to focus on us. I suppose it was only natural. Levie was one of the few female soldiers here, and setting aside her personality, there seemed to be lots of men with their eyes set on a good-looking woman. The mood's ruined. Yeah. Shall we go somewhere else? Levie stood up without waiting for my answer. My drowsiness had completely disappeared. Right, well, we're gonna end the video here, as we just went to a private place to have a conversation with Levie. So yeah, I want to thank you all once again so very much for watching. Eden is getting really excited, and actually I found another visual novel that I'm gonna do after this, so I feel like I might just do whatever until I actually run out of visual novels to do and don't find a new one. I'm probably just going to keep one series, at least one series of visual novel running at all times, besides all the Sakura stuff, of course, whenever they do come out, because those I will probably do as soon as possible whenever they come out. But on the side, I would like to just have one visual novel running all the time as well until it's ended, and then I'll just do a new one. So yeah, exciting stuff on that front for the future, but first we gotta finish Eden, of course. So yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next exciting video. Peace.